What is friendship? Seriously. We use the word all the time. We feel like we know it
Right.
until you try to actually define it.
Yeah.
And it turns out wrestling with this question isn't unique to us.
No, not at all. It's a puzzle that goes back, well, thousands of years, right to the roots of Western philosophy. And for this deep dive, we're going to let one of history's greatest thinkers, Plato, guide us.
Yeah, we're diving into his dialogue called the Lysis, using the classic Benjamin Jowett translation. Think of this text as a window, really, into an ancient conversation where Socrates, the ultimate question asker, takes on the mystery of friendship.
Picture this. You're in ancient Athens. It's the time of the Hermaea festival, a time for celebrations involving the city's youth. Socrates is walking outside the city walls and comes across a brand new wrestling school. A palestra.
A palestra, okay.
Inside, young men and boys are gathered. Among them is a young man named Hippothales, who is absolutely smitten with another young man, Lysis.
Ugh, a classic setup. Unrequited or maybe just unexpressed love. And our mission today, to go deep into this specific conversation Socrates has. We want to follow his exploration with these young men, understand the different paths they take, trying to define friendship.
See why it was so difficult to pin down.
Exactly. And most importantly, extract the key insights and enduring questions from this ancient source just for you.
Right, so let's really step into that scene. It's the Hermaea festival, this new palestra. Socrates bumps into Hippothales and his friend Chrysippus, and Sisyphus immediately starts spilling the beans about Hippothales' situation with Lysis. And wow, is Hippothales handling it poorly.
Poorly is being kind. Sisyphus is practically exasperated, telling Socrates that Hippothales is driving everyone mad. Why? Because all he does is boast about Lysis. He talks about Lysis's wealth, his incredible lineage seriously, tracing back to Heracles, son of Zeus.
Wow.
And his family's constant victories in the big games, Pythian, Isthmian, Nemean, winning with teams of 4 horses, single horses, just nonstop Lysis praise.
And Socrates, with his typical sharp mind, immediately spots the strategic error here. He points out that this kind of public boasting, before you've won someone over, isn't for the beloved's benefit at all. It's self-serving.
Completely.
If Hippothales somehow wins Lysis, he gets to say, see, I won this amazing person I was telling you about. But if he fails...
he just looks like a complete fool.
Exactly. For having hyped up someone he couldn't capture, as Socrates puts it.
Right. It totally backfires. And Socrates adds another crucial point. This kind of praise just inflates the beloved's ego. It puffs Lysis up with pride and vainglory. And Socrates notes the more proud someone is, the harder they are to. His word is capture.
It's terrible strategy for a lover, like trying to hunt something by making a huge amount of noise and scaring it away.
Yeah, exactly.
So humbled by this, Hippothales asks for advice. How should he talk to his beloved? Socrates' advice is classic Socrates. Talk to Lysis himself. And that's precisely what happens next.
Okay, so they head into the palestra. The boys are finishing up some sacrifices, playing dice. Lysis is there, described as quite striking indeed. Lysis's friend, Menexenus, gets called away for a sacrifice, leaving Socrates alone with Lysis. And this is where the one-on-one begins.
Yeah, and Socrates starts incredibly gently, talking about something everyone understands, parental love. He asks Lysis if his parents love him dearly and want him to be happy. Lysis readily agrees. Of course.
But then comes the twist. Socrates presses him. If they love him and want him happy, why don't they let him do whatever he wants? Why can't he drive the chariots or, touch his mother's precious weaving tools? Why is he constantly subject to others, his tutor, who's a slave, his teachers?
And Lysis gives the most obvious answer for a young person.
Yeah.
He's not of age. He's too young for that responsibility.
And here's where Socrates drops a fantastic insight. He counters. That's not the real reason. Look at the things you're allowed to do right now.
Like what?
Reading and writing letters, playing the lyre. Why? Because you know how to do those things.
Yes. The core insight Socrates pulls out is profound and practical. Freedom and authority don't come from age. They come from knowledge. When you truly know something, people will trust you and give you freedom in that area. He gives vivid examples. Hellenes or barbarians, men or women, your parents, your neighbors, even the king of Persia, if you know about cooking, they'll let you add salt to the soup, not their own kid who doesn't know. If you know medicine, they'll let you treat their eyes, even put ashes on them, because they trust your knowledge.
So in areas where you have knowledge, you are free, you have mastery, you are useful to others.
Right.
And those things you know are truly yours because you benefit from them and others rely on you. But in areas you don't understand, you are subject to others and you are useless. And here's the critical connection to friendship. If you are useless to others, how can they love you? To be useful and good, you need knowledge.
Socrates then makes a kind observation about Lysis. Since he still needs teachers, he's not fully wise. But the good news is, because he knows he needs teachers, he doesn't have the conceit of thinking he already knows everything, which is also a good state to be in.
That's a good point. And this whole exchange about humbling Lysis through exposing his lack of knowledge, it's exactly what Socrates was advising Hippothales.
Yes.
And for a fleeting second, seeing Lysis take it in, Socrates almost turns to where Hippothales is hiding and says, "See, Hippothales, this is how you talk to your beloved, humbling him, not puffing him up."
He almost does it,
Yeah.
but he stops himself, remembering Hippothales wants to remain unseen. A close call.
It really was.
Just as Socrates checks himself, Menexenus returns from the sacrifice. And in a really sweet moment, Lysis whispers to Socrates and asks him to repeat the whole conversation for Menexenus. Socrates suggests Lysis do it, but Lysis insists Socrates talk to Menexenus, warning him that Menexenus is very pugnacious, argumentative.
Okay, buckle up. This is where the big philosophical wrestling match begins. Socrates sets the stage by declaring his own great need. He desperately wants a friend more than anything in the world. He tells these young men he's amazed they seem to have found this treasure of friendship so easily, while he, an older man, still doesn't know how one is acquired. He says he wants them to teach him the secret.
It's a brilliant move, putting himself in the position of learner to draw them out. And so the central challenging inquiry starts. What is friendship? Their first attempt is the most intuitive one. When one person loves another, who is the friend?
Is it the lover, the beloved, or does it require mutual love?
Okay, let's explore the options. If either can be the friend, what about someone who loves another, but the other person doesn't love them back? That's unrequited love.
Right, not quite friendship.
Or even worse, what if the beloved actually hates the lover? Can the beloved still be the friend in that case? That feels wrong, fundamentally wrong.
Yeah, it does. So maybe friendship requires both to love each other mutually. This sounds more like it.
But then Socrates points out a problem. How can things like horses, quails, dogs, wine, or even abstract things like wisdom be friends to their lovers?
Oh, they can't love back.
Exactly. Yet poets call these things dear, which seems close to the idea of friend. So if mutual love is the rule, a lot of things we value deeply can't be considered friends.
Okay, so that definition seems too narrow then. What about the idea that maybe the beloved is the friend, regardless of whether they love back or even hate the lover?
Here's where it gets logically messy. Really messy. If the beloved is the friend even if they hate you, and the hated one is the enemy even if they love you,
Oh, I hate it. Okay.
then it's possible for a man to be loved by his enemies and hated by his friends.
Okay, that makes no sense.
Right. Which would mean he's friends with his enemies and enemies with his friends. Socrates points out this is a total logical contradiction. It's impossible.
Wow. Okay, so summary check-in. Attempt number 1, lover is friend.
Refuted?
Attempt number 2, beloved is friend.
Refuted because of that logical absurdity.
Attempt number 3, both love mutually.
Also refuted because of things we love that can't love back.
None of the simple initial ideas hold up under Socrates' questioning. He concludes, I cannot find any. And Lysis, endearingly, agrees and blushes again.
Right. So since their own everyday understanding has failed, Socrates suggests they look to the fathers of wisdom, the poets and philosophers, for ideas. This introduces conflicting theories that have been around for ages.
Okay, theory number 1. Is the friend of this idea shows up in ancient wisdom, like Homer saying God is ever drawing like towards like.
Or Empedocles saying like must love like.
Right. The argument is simple. Good people are like one another. They get along, so they are friends. Bad people aren't even consistent within themselves. They're full of conflict, so they can't be friends with each other or the good.
Therefore,
Friendship must be good people with good people. Seems straightforward.
but Socrates immediately challenges this. If I'm Zara's friend of how can they actually be useful to each other? Can't benefit or harm? In a way they couldn't do to themselves? And if you can't be useful to someone, how can you be loved by them?
Good point.
Plus, the truly good man is self-sufficient. He wants and desires nothing because he's complete in himself. If he wants nothing.
How can he value or be friends with another person?
Exactly. That insight feels important.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe true connection requires a bit of not being perfectly self-sufficient.
That's a big idea. Okay, so if being similar doesn't create the need for friendship, maybe being completely different does. Theory number 2. Unlike is the friend of unlike.
Or opposites attract.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is supported by Hesiod's idea that competitors, the most alike people, Potter and Potter, Bard and Bard, are actually full of envy and conflict.
And doctors see opposites attracting moist is friend of dry, hot of cold.
So the argument for opposites attracting in friendship is based on need.
Right. The most unlike people are friends because they need each other to balance themselves out or provide what they lack. The poor need the rich, the weak need the strong.
The sick need the physician, the ignorant need the wise. They feed off each other's difference. Makes sense in a way.
But Socrates finds a logical problem here too. If friendship is between opposites, then love, which is the opposite of hate, would mean that an enemy is the friend of a friend, and a friend is the friend of an enemy.
That's another contradiction.
It is. And it would mean the just person could be the friend of the unjust, or the good of the bad, which seems fundamentally impossible for Socrates.
Right. So another dead end. Neither attracting nor opposites attracting seems to fully capture friendship without running into, well, serious problems.
Definitely.
Socrates says his head is starting to feel dizzy from all the refutations, but he's not giving up. He proposes a new angle. Maybe friendship isn't between like and like, or unlike and unlike, but perhaps that which is neither good nor evil is the friend of the good.
Okay.
He links this to the old proverb that the beautiful is the friend, suggesting the good is beautiful.
This is getting a bit more complex. He sets up 3 categories. Good, bad, and that middle state, which is neither good nor bad. Let's call it neutral or indifferent.
Okay.
They've already ruled out good with good, evil with evil, and good with evil as definitions of friendship.
Right. So the remaining possibility is that the neutral thing is the friend of the good. Or maybe the neutral is the friend of the neutral.
They quickly rule out neutral being friends with neutral because that just takes them back to the like is friend of like problem.
Which they already decided was useless.
Right.
Okay, so they're left with this tentative conclusion.
Yeah.
The good alone is the friend of that which is neither good nor evil.
How does this work? Socrates gives a powerful analogy. Think of the human body. It's naturally neither good nor evil.
Right.
But when disease and evil is present, the body needs medicine, a good. The sick person, the body, which is neither good nor evil, but affected by evil, courts the physician who brings the good of health. This seeking of the good happens because of the presence of evil, and it happens before the body becomes totally corrupted by the evil.
Why before?
Because once something is evil, it can't be friends with the good. That was one of their earlier exclusions.
Okay. So the neutral thing desires the good as a remedy for the evil that's affecting it or threatening to affect it. And Socrates connects this directly to the philosopher, the lover of wisdom.
The philosopher isn't fully wise, which would be good, nor are they utterly ignorant, which is evil. They are in that middle state. Ignorance is an evil that clings to them. They yearn for wisdom, the good, as the cure for this ignorance.
So this fits the model. The neither good nor evil, the philosopher, is a friend of the good, wisdom, because of the presence of evil, ignorance.
Yes, and for a brief moment, Socrates feels a rush of certainty, like he's finally caught the prey. But then immediately, he has a most unaccountable suspicion.
Already.
Yeah, he feels like this conclusion is also wrong, like he's just grasping at a shadow.
A shadow. That phrase is so evocative. It really captures that frustrating feeling of thinking you've got the answer only for it to slip away. What makes him doubt this time?
He starts questioning the idea that friendship is always for the sake of something else that is dear.
Okay, explain that.
The sick man is friends with the physician because of the disease, but for the sake of health. Health is dear.
Right.
But is health dear for its own sake, or for the sake of something else that is dear? This seems to lead to a potentially endless chain.
A chain of dearness.
Exactly. Things being dear only because they lead to something else dearer.
Okay, let's pause here because this chain of dearness is a classic philosophical move. Think about it like this. You want a new phone. Why? To communicate. Why communicate? To stay connected to friends and family. Why stay connected? Because that brings you happiness or well-being. See how there's a chain. Socrates is asking, where does that chain stop? There must be an ultimate object, something that is dear for its own sake, where the chain ends. Everything else is only dear relatively, as a means to that ultimate end.
Precisely. Yeah. And Socrates wonders if this ultimate dear thing, this first principle of friendship, is the good. But then the doubt from the previous section resurfaces. If evil were to perish completely, would the good still be useful or desired? If there's nothing left to hurt us, why would we need something to do us good? maybe the good is only loved because of evil as a remedy.
Whoa. So if evil was the cause of needing the good as a friend, and evil disappears, does friendship disappear too? That's a pretty unsettling thought.
It really
Is
is.
friendship just a band-aid for suffering?
That's the implication he's wrestling with. And Socrates feels this contradiction. He briefly considers if desires like hunger or thirst might remain even without evil,
Okay.
implying some love or friendship could exist then. But if their previous conclusion was right that the neutral is friends with the good by reason of evil, then friendship seems fundamentally tied to evil's existence. This paradox leaves them stuck again.
Back to square one, it feels like.
Pretty much.
So Socrates, tireless, tries one more potential cause. Desire. He suggests that desire is the true cause of friendship. What you desire, you are drawn to. It is dear to you. And you desire what you are in want of, what you are deprived of.
This leads to the idea that love, desire, and friendship seem to arise from what is natural or congenial.
Congenial, like suited to each other.
Yes, if you are friends, you must have natures that are congenial to one another, things that fit together or belong together in some fundamental way. And this implies that a true lover, if they're truly congenial to their beloved, must be loved in return.
Hippothales must be listening intently at this point. The idea that if he's truly congenial to Lysis, Lysis must love him back.
You could almost see him lighting up. The
Oh,
text says his color changes with pleasure. He thinks he's finally got his answer.
finally.
Yeah.
But knowing Socrates.
Exactly. Socrates, ever the buzzkill for simple answers, immediately homes in on the word congenial. What's the difference, he asks, between congenial and like? If they're the same, they just fall back into that first refuted argument, like is useless to like. And how can something useless be dear or a friend?
Right, we've already been down that road and it didn't work. They try to distinguish the terms again. Maybe congenial means evil is congenial to evil, good to good, neutral to neutral.
But that just leads back to the problem of bad people being friends with bad people, which Socrates found impossible earlier.
Okay. Or if congenial is just another word for good.
Then it means only good is friend of good, which was also refuted because the good don't need each other.
They're completely tangled up. Every path they take, every definition they try, leads to a dead end or a contradiction based on previous points.
The beloved, the lover, unlike good, congenial none seem to hold up as the single true essence of a friend.
So what happens? Do they just give up?
Just as Socrates is about to suggest, they ask an older person for their wisdom. The conversation is abruptly, almost comically cut short. The boys' tutors show up.
Yeah.
The translation describes them vividly as like an evil apparition, loud, and probably having had a bit too much wine from the Hermea festival,
Ooh.
demanding the boys come home immediately.
They try to make them stay, but the tutors are insistent, shouting in their barbarous dialect. The discussion is forced to end right there.
Wow, after all that.
Yeah. And Socrates' final words to Lysis and Menexenus perfectly capture the outcome and the spirit of many of Plato's early dialogues.
What does he say?
He says, "O Menexenus and Lysis, how ridiculous that you two boys and I, an old boy, who would fain be one of you, should imagine ourselves to be friends. And as yet we have not been able to discover what is a friend."
It's a mic drop moment that isn't an answer, but highlights the immense difficulty of the question itself. The dialogue ends without a neat final definition.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it, isn't it? Plato isn't necessarily giving us the definition, but showing us the rigor required to even approach defining something as fundamental as friendship. The process is the point.
Absolutely. And this ancient conversation, even without a conclusion, it touches on so many timeless questions about friendship that, we still grapple with today. The source's notes mention some of them. Is friendship permanent or fleeting? Should it be exclusive? What about friends across different groups or within marriage?
Why is such a noble feeling sometimes connected to less noble ones like need or even self-interest? How do we handle the inevitable disappointments?
And implicitly, the dialogue makes us think about the positive qualities, too, which came up in our source notes: the counsel, the support in tough times, loyalty, sharing joy.
Seeing and being seen truly by another person. Even if we can't define friendship simply, we know we value those things deeply.
For sure. So we've taken a deep dive into Plato's Lysis, following Socrates as he navigated the tangled paths of defining friendship. We didn't walk away with a simple answer,
Not at all.
but we gained a lot by watching the search itself.
We saw the surprising connection Socrates made between knowledge, usefulness, and the capacity for being loved. The failure of easy ideas like attracts like or opposites attract under scrutiny.
Okay.
The puzzling question of whether friendship fundamentally arises from needing a remedy for evil or if it's something desired purely for its own sake.
And how even promising ideas like congeniality can lead back to earlier problems.
Yeah.
It makes you realize that something we experience so naturally every day is incredibly complex when you try to dissect it logically.
Yeah.
The dialogue leaves you with a profound appreciation for that complexity.
Absolutely. The very fact that Socrates and these young men couldn't pin it down thousands of years ago shows it's not a simple problem. It endures.
So even if we can't perfectly define it after this dive, what aspect of friendship that we touched on today, maybe the link to usefulness, the role of need, the idea of congeniality, or just the frustration of its complexity, what feels most essential or perhaps most challenging to understand or navigate in your own life? What makes someone truly feel congenial to you in a way that goes beyond just being similar?
It's a question designed to keep you thinking, isn't it?
Indeed. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into ancient philosophy and the enduring, beautiful mystery of friendship.